I'm joined now to discuss the crisis in that sector. Two petroleum experts, Professor Izielen Agbon and Engineer Neyin. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. I'll start with you, Professor Agbon. Help us to understand what's at play here. How should observers interpret the fact that a dominant private player in the downstream sector is the one petitioning the chief regulator? Does this development represent, in your thinking, a genuine anti-corruption crusade by an aggrieved investor or a strategic move in a high-stakes battle over control of the fuel supply chain?
Thank you for having me. To answer your question, the reflection is on both. One is anti-corruption because Dangote is asking that there are expenditures that cannot be explained by the authority chairman, and these expenditures do not come from personal income and they should be investigated. You remember Buhari said Nigeria either kill corruption or corruption will kill us. Secondly, Dangote is doing this not because Dangote is a comrade anti-corruption advocate. Dangote is doing this because Dangote is involved as an oligopoly in a struggle for market control against the importers and what he constitutes as the oil cabal. The authority gave 47 licenses to 47 importers to keep importing PMS into Nigeria. And Dangote is involved in a price war and market control share against these importers. These importers have always engaged in corrupt activity in the importation of PMS into Nigeria under the so-called subsidy regime. We've always said that there is no subsidy, there's only corruption. If you remember, in 2012, the representative Farouk Lawan committee found out that more than $6.8 billion was appropriated by the importers of PMS into Nigeria. Farouk Lawan committee was caught up in a corruption scandal about $1, and he went to jail, and he was later pardoned by President Tinubu. So the importers engaged in corrupt activity and the inflation and the appropriation of public funds through the so-called subsidy regime. So there was no subsidy, there was only corruption. Faced with that is Dangote. Dangote is doing oligopolistic prices. So between the oligopolistic prices of Dangote and the corrupt high prices of the importer, the Nigerian masses are caught in between with nobody fighting for their interest. I've always maintained that Dangote is fighting for Dangote interests, the oil cabal, the international traders and Nigerian importers are fighting for their economic interests. Nobody is fighting for the interests of the Nigerian masses. The interest of the Nigerian masses is the elimination of corruption and corrupt prices, either by the people that are regulators, by the importers claiming so-called subsidy inside the NMDPRA, where they are talking over pricing, and also against oligopolistic domination of the market by Dangote. So this is the situation.
Alex, let's come to you now. Do we have Alex, please? Okay, I understand we don't have Alex in this conversation. So I'll just ask you this. It is not technically like an oil question, but more to do with not throwing the baby away with the bathwater in terms of the allegations that are being presented. Whether he is in the position to do that, to give it to the ICPC, or it is their place to investigate these allegations, and if there are any relevance, because at the moment it seems there's a coalition of lawyers that have come out to say this will discourage investors from coming into the country. Your thoughts, please.
The struggle against corruption cannot discourage anybody from investing in the country. We must encourage any questions that are raised about corrupt practices by anybody, whether they're in public office or not. no matter the reason why Dangote is doing it, for the chairman of the authority should be asked to explain his source of income. If his source of income are legitimate, then there is no problem. If he cannot explain it, he should be asked to resign and he should be moved out of the way. That is completely different. I do not really appreciate the representative saying that they are asking for a public ceasefire. The public information should be encouraged. There's nothing like intervention for public ceasefire. Like I said before, even when we forced the representative in 2012 to go and investigate and they found corruption, the chairman of that investigative committee in the House of Representatives, Farouk Lawan, was now subjected and accused of corruption himself by Otodola. So if the reps want to intervene, they should not intervene and sweep it under the carpet. They should open everything to mass publication so that the press can be involved in everything and the public Nigerian masses can be involved. That's the only way.
Yeah, but as it stands now, it seems some people say this is a distraction, but is this an opening for a bigger conversation as to what is happening in the oil sector? Are these allegations distracting from the real issues at play?
No, they are not. Because Dangote is insisting that the chairman of the authority have got connection to the oil importer. He's saying you cannot be a regulator and an importer. This is true. If you're going to be a regulator, you have to be an independent regulator. In a football match, you cannot be the referee and be playing for one of the teams. You have to be neutral. So if you have compromising linkages to importers, or you have compromising linkages to traders, or you have compromising linkages to Dangote, then you cannot be in the authority. You have to be neutral. Because the authority is supposed to represent the interests of the Nigerian people and the Nigerian government. Okay. So it is a legitimate complaint that Dangote is doing. The question we should ask is, what is the personal or economic relationship between Dangote and the authority, Dangote and our representative, Dangote and our politicians, the authorities and the importers, the authorities and the international traders? Let everybody economic interest be open to the public. That is the only way we can kill corruption and bring the prices to a competitive level.
Okay, let's go back.
Holistic level.
Solutions, we're always looking for that. Let's go back to your comment about what the House of Representative members said. Among the things he also said was they are going to wade into this allegation, and what's the word he used now? Is it solve it, find solutions, and solve it once and for all? Do you think that the House of Representatives can do much in this matter?
Well, the legislation is supposed to make laws in Nigeria. They are not an investigative unit. They should make a law. What the legislation should do is to make an antitrust law. An antitrust law that does not allow any one player to dominate the Nigerian petroleum market. Because in future, we are going to have an oligopolistic problem. If Dangote alone is the major player, just like he's the major player in cement and sugar. This is not cement and sugar. This is petrol. So there should be an antitrust law against oligopolistic formation. And Dangote should be controlled by law, not to be a dominant player. That is what the legislation should do. When it comes to the legislation and corruption, the legislation should encourage that the ICPC and the FECC should pursue anybody who is faced with an alleged corrupt practice. And everybody's economic relationship should be open to the public. Like I said, the legislator can encourage the relationship between the authorities and make a law that people in the authorities cannot have relationship with importers or with traders.
All
They should make a law that people in authority cannot have economic relationship with Dangote, and they should make a law to control Dangote's oligopolistic control of the market. If they do that, then Nigeria will have a situation where we have the maximum benefit from Dangote.
All right, let's take a look quickly. We have very limited time, sir. I want you to speak quickly to suggestions of what civil society organizations, aside from the House of Representatives, a labor union, and maybe professional associations can do to leverage the petition to push for wider reforms in declaration of assets, lifestyle audits, and maybe public disclosure requirements for top regulatory officials like Farouk.
Yes, I think trade unions who Dangote was fighting just a few weeks ago, Dangote is fighting everybody. But trade union and civil service organizations should put pressure on the legislation as well as the government, as well as public opinion, to force all the information involving Dangote, the importers, the international traders, the authority, and even the legislators themselves. Everybody's financial leakages should be made public so that we will see that everybody is above board and nobody is corrupt. This is the role that civil society organizations and trade unions like Pegasin and Nupeng can play in protecting the interests of their workers and the interests of the Nigerian citizens with respect to low prices. We want low prices.
Everybody wants that. Everybody wants low pricing. We're hoping we can resolve it.
Let me tell you, I can buy petrol here at 740 naira a liter in Houston today. So that raises a question.
We'll have to pause the conversation now, Prof. We have to pause now. Thank you, as always, for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
I'm grateful. Thank you for having me.